There's a quiet battle happening inside most of us. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. But it's there, constantly chipping away at our energy, our joy, and our ability to truly connect with life. It's not invisible, but we've gotten so used to it, so familiar with the fatigue and fog, that we've stopped noticing it. We wake up already tired, go through the motions of the day feeling half awake. Moments of joy feel muted, and motivation feels like a distant memory. We tell ourselves it's the job, the endless to-do lists, the glowing screens, the weather, but beneath all those surface-level explanations lies something deeper, something chemical, something foundational. Our brain's natural balance, its internal chemistry, is off. And one of the key players in that system, one that often gets overlooked, is dopamine. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. That's a misconception. It's not just the feel-good molecule. It's the molecule of drive, of direction. It's what fuels our ability to focus, to strive, to persevere, and to experience satisfaction. It gives life momentum. It's the reason you get out of bed with a sense of purpose instead of dread. When our dopamine levels are steady and healthy, life flows more smoothly. We feel lighter, more present, more capable. Our thoughts are clearer. Our energy has direction. But when dopamine drops, when it's drained or disrupted, everything starts to feel heavier. Even the smallest task can feel monumental. Getting off the couch, replying to an email, cooking a meal. Suddenly it all feels like too much. And in today's overstimulated, chronically exhausted world, more people than ever are unknowingly living with depleted dopamine. Here's the truth. You're not broken. You're not lazy. And you're not alone. The good news? Dopamine isn't out of reach. You don't need a prescription to restore it. You don't need to escape your life or move to a mountain retreat to feel like yourself again. There are powerful, natural ways to reboot your brain's chemistry, to restore that spark. That inner fire that once made life feel rich and full and deeply alive. That's what this episode is about. Not quick fixes, not perfection, but reconnection. A return to the small yet powerful habits that awaken your inner world. The ones that seem insignificant on the surface but hold the power to shift everything underneath. If you've been feeling stuck, foggy, disconnected, or like a stranger in your own life, then stay with me. Because this journey isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming better, more present, more aligned, more in tune with your own rhythm. We're not chasing happiness here. We're not looking for escape. We're rebuilding balance. We're reclaiming presence. Energy that doesn't come from validation or achievement, but from inside you. Because mental and emotional wellness isn't some luxury you only get when everything else is done. It's the foundation beneath everything. So let's take this step together, one breath, one habit, one shift at a time. Step 1. Move, even slowly. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how just a short walk can change everything? You step outside, and the air feels different. The noise in your head starts to fade. Your shoulders relax. The mental fog begins to lift. It's like you suddenly remember how to breathe again. That's not just fresh air working its magic. It's not just a coincidence. What you're feeling is movement, real, chemical movement, inside your brain. Even gentle, non-strenuous movement can spark a cascade of dopamine. And dopamine, remember, is what helps you feel motivated, emotionally balanced, and alive. But in today's achievement-driven world, we often reduce movement to performance. 10,000 steps. 45-minute workouts. Calories burned. Progress tracked. We make movement a goal to be met rather than a gift to our body and mind. But your body doesn't need to be pushed to its limits to heal. It just needs to move, freely. Gently. Rhythmically. Dopamine doesn't wait for your perfect gym day. It doesn't care about your step count. It responds to flow, to rhythm, to the return of breath and blood and balance. It responds when you start reconnecting with your physical self, not to impress anyone, but to return home to your own body. And let's be real, when we feel low or disconnected, what's the first thing we stop doing? Moving. We sit. We scroll. We overthink. We tell ourselves we'll get up later. But ironically, that's the exact moment when movement matters most. Not as punishment, not as a performance, but as a reset. It's not just modern science that tells us this. The Stoics knew it thousands of years ago. Take cleanse. For example, an early Stoic philosopher. He wasn't just a thinker. He was a laborer, hauling water through the night so he could study during the day. For him, physical work wasn't separate from clarity. It was the path to clarity. The body moved so the mind could think. That was his practice, his discipline. You don't need to be a philosopher. You don't need to lift weights or run marathons. Maybe you're overwhelmed by deadlines or drained from back-to-back meetings. Your instinct is probably to sit longer, push harder, solve everything with more thinking. But what if the answer isn't in your head? What if the clarity you're searching for lies in a 10-minute walk? What if that simple act, stepping outside, feeling the sunlight, hearing your footsteps, actually shifts your entire internal chemistry? Because it can. Movement doesn't just trigger dopamine. It activates serotonin, norepinephrine, and endorphins, the full orchestra of your emotional well-being. It won't make your problems disappear, but it will strengthen your ability to face them. And here's the best part. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need workout clothes or an app. You don't need to sweat. You just need to move. You can start right now. Stand up. Roll your shoulders. Stretch your spine. Walk slowly through your house with awareness. And if you can, step outside. Let your senses wake up. Let your body remember what it's like to belong to the world around you. To move not for performance, but for peace. Do it not because something's wrong with you, but because your body was never meant to sit still for so long. Movement is truth, and a mind in motion finds answers that a mind stuck in isolation never will. Healing doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like small steps, like gentle motion, like walking toward presence instead of pushing away pain. Make movement part of your rhythm, not as a punishment, but as permission. Permission to feel again, to breathe again, to be here again. So pause for a second and ask yourself, what kind of movement does my body need today? Not what looks good on social media. Not what someone else says you should do. What do you need? Honor that, trust it, and then move, even slowly. Because when you do, dopamine flows, and with it, a deeper sense of aliveness begins to return. And once your body remembers how to move, it's time to look at something else we often take for granted: what we put into it. That brings us to our next step. Step 2. Eat with wisdom, not emotion. We've all done it, standing in the kitchen after a long day, Reaching into a bag of chips or grabbing something sweet from the cupboard, not because we're truly hungry, but because we're overwhelmed, bored, anxious, or just emotionally worn out. And for a fleeting moment, that bite, whether it's creamy, crunchy, salty, or sugary, feels like relief. It silences the noise inside, temporarily. But here's the piece we often forget, or choose not to see, when we eat emotionally. We're not just feeding our hunger, we're training our brain. Every time we respond to stress or sadness with food, we're reinforcing a loop, a neurological shortcut. We're reshaping how our brain seeks comfort. And more often than not, that shortcut bypasses health and clarity in favor of instant gratification. It also interferes with one of the most delicate balances in our body: dopamine. Yes, dopamine again, the same chemical behind your motivation, focus, and emotional steadiness. It turns out, what you eat plays a direct role in how dopamine is produced and regulated. Your meals don't just influence your waistline, they influence your state of mind. You see, dopamine is built from nutrients. Specifically, from amino acids like tyrosine, found in protein-rich foods. From healthy fats that support brain function. From complex carbohydrates that stabilize your energy. When you nourish your body with whole, nutrient-dense foods, you're giving your brain the raw materials it needs to thrive. But when you replace that nourishment with quick fixes, processed snacks, sugary drinks, emotional binges, you're creating an internal roller coaster. A spike of dopamine followed by a crash. A moment of comfort followed by a fog of regret. It's a cycle that leaves you feeling worse, not better. 10 minutes of pleasure, hours of imbalance. The ancient Stoics might not have talked about amino acids or blood sugar, but they understood this truth deeply. They knew that discipline over desire leads to clarity. Seneca once wrote, "Drunkenness is nothing but voluntary madness." And though he was speaking of alcohol, the principle applies far more broadly. Overindulgence, of any kind, clouds the mind, weakens the will, and diminishes your ability to act with intention. And isn't that what food often becomes when we're overwhelmed? Not fuel, but escape, a distraction, a numbing agent. So maybe the real question isn't, what should I eat to look better? Or, what's the trending diet this month? Maybe the question we should be asking is simpler, more honest. What kind of food helps me feel clear, calm, centered? That question changes everything. It's not about guilt. It's not about rules. It's about awareness. Pay attention. How do you feel 2 hours after that snack? Did it lift you up? Or did it pull you into a slump? Did your energy rise? Or did your mind get sluggish? Food doesn't just affect your body. It affects your mood, your motivation, your mindset. Let's go deeper. Imagine beginning your morning with something real: protein, greens, hydration, before caffeine, before scrolling, before reacting to the world. What you've done is send a clear, grounding message to your nervous system. I choose stability over stimulation. You've supported your dopamine naturally. Not with sugar, not with chaos, but with care. And your body responds. You feel steady. Your thoughts are less scattered. The cravings don't scream as loudly. You move through your day with a sense of grounded focus. Now contrast that with the opposite: skipping breakfast, snacking late into the night, turning to comfort food after a stressful meeting. The next morning, you wake up groggy, You don't feel like yourself. Your blood sugar dips mid-morning. You're irritable, distracted, reaching for more stimulation, your phone, caffeine, another snack. It's not a willpower issue. It's a chemistry issue. Your brain is searching for the dopamine it never received through proper nourishment. This is why eating with wisdom is one of the highest acts of self-respect. Not perfection, not control. Wisdom, the kind of quiet, grounded intelligence that says, I want to feel good, so I will eat in a way that supports that. This isn't about chasing some ideal of clean eating. It's about deciding what kind of emotional life you want to live, and fueling yourself accordingly. Because the plate in front of you isn't just a meal. It's a message. It's a declaration of how much your presence matters to you. Yes, it takes effort. It takes awareness to pause and ask, am I really hungry? Or am I just avoiding a feeling? It takes strength to walk away from the quick fix, the sugary bandage, the salty distraction. But every time you choose real food over emotional escape, you're teaching your nervous system something profound. I can be with myself. I don't need to run. I don't need to numb. I can stay. I can feel. And I can respond with clarity. Food is information. Every bite is a signal to your brain and body. A signal that shapes your emotional stability, your drive, your resilience. So when you build your meals with intention, you're not just feeding your body. You're literally shaping your emotional future, one plate at a time. So the next time you open the fridge or find yourself pacing in the kitchen at night, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Maybe it's energy. Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's connection or reflection. Maybe it's simply stillness. Don't just feed your feelings. Feed your future. Because what you consume becomes what you feel. And if you want to feel powerful, calm, and motivated, your food has to reflect that choice. And once your body is nourished, once you've honored it with the fuel it deserves, there's still one more element that your dopamine and your soul desperately needs. Step 3. Sleep like you're rebooting your soul. When was the last time you truly rested? Not just shut your eyes and scrolled until you drifted off. I mean real, complete rest. The kind that lets your body exhale and your brain reset. In our hustle glorifying, always-on culture, sleep is often treated like a luxury. Like it's optional. Like you can just power through. Push harder. Caffeinate your way out of exhaustion without paying the price. But your nervous system tells a different story. Quietly, persistently, sleep is not optional. It's a biological mandate. It is the foundation of emotional resilience, focus, and yes, dopamine. While you sleep, your brain performs what can only be described as housekeeping. It clears out waste. It resets your hormones. It restores your neurotransmitters. And dopamine, your motivation, your joy, your emotional balance, is deeply tied to the quality of this nightly process. Have you ever noticed how the tiniest problems feel enormous after a terrible night's sleep? Or how your patience disappears? Your mind feels foggy, and everything just feels heavier? That's not weakness. That's biology. Your dopamine receptors lose sensitivity when you're sleep deprived, which means you start needing more stimulation to feel normal. Eventually, you stop feeling much at all. The Stoics didn't have brain scans or sleep studies, but they understood this intuitively. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most disciplined minds in history, wrote about the importance of preparing for the day. And preparation, at its core, begins with rest. Without sleep, even philosophy is just theory. With sleep, it becomes action. Yet so many of us trade sleep for productivity, or what feels like productivity. We stay up late checking boxes, doom scrolling, distracting ourselves until our eyes blur. We think we're gaining time, but what we're really doing is borrowing from tomorrow's clarity, from tomorrow's strength, from tomorrow's emotional stability. One of the most powerful choices you can make isn't to hustle harder. It's to rest smarter. It's to treat sleep not as a leftover luxury, but as a sacred part of your mental hygiene. Because without it, no diet, no meditation, no movement can fully take root. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You don't need to hit 8 hours every night like clockwork. 3. Sleep like you're rebooting your soul. You don't need perfect sleep every night. You don't need the mythical 8 uninterrupted hours. But what you do need, deeply, desperately, is rhythm. A sacred consistency that tells your body and mind, this is my time to shut down, to soften, to return to stillness. Because the truth is, sleep isn't a reward for surviving the day. It's the foundation for how you live the next one. You see, the hours before sleep matter just as much as the sleep itself. That time, when the lights dim, when the world starts to quiet, shouldn't be filled with noise, screens, or last-minute to-do lists. It should be a bridge, a transition from doing to being, from alertness to surrender. But most nights, let's be honest, we resist this transition. We tell ourselves just one more email, one more episode, one more scroll. We trade stillness for stimulation, as if we can outthink our exhaustion. And yet, a tired mind doesn't think, it reacts. It doesn't solve problems, it spins in them. The more exhausted you are, the more dramatic and distorted your thoughts become. Little annoyances feel massive. Small worries turn into anxiety spirals. All because the mind wasn't given a chance to reset. If you want better mornings, more clarity, more focus, more motivation, you have to start with better nights. It's that simple, and that profound. Create a space that honors sleep like it honors your future. Cool the room, dim the lights, turn off the noise. Let your bedroom become a sanctuary. Not a storage closet for stress, but a place where your body knows, here, I can let go. No judgment, no pressure, just a gentle return to yourself. And if sleep is hard for you, if you've struggled with rest, with overthinking, with waking up more tired than you were the night before, start small. Go to bed at the same time each night. Turn off screens at least an hour before. Play calming music or gentle ambient sounds. Breathe deeply. Stretch lightly. Not because you're chasing the perfect night's rest, but because you're honoring your brain's deepest need, to unplug, to reset, to repair. Because sleep isn't passive, it's an active process of healing. Your brain doesn't turn off, it works harder than ever during sleep to clear toxins, restore neurotransmitters, and regulate your emotional chemistry. Dopamine, in particular, is restored during sleep. And without enough deep, restful sleep, those receptors become dull, less responsive, which means the things that used to inspire you don't hit the same anymore. Joy feels flat, motivation feels out of reach, and slowly, you stop feeling like yourself. That's not you losing your edge. That's sleep deprivation, and it's robbing your mind of its full potential. The Stoics may not have had research papers or REM cycle charts, but they understood rest as preparation. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and still found time to reflect, reminded himself to rise and meet the day's duties, but he also knew that rising strong meant sleeping well. Rest was not laziness, it was readiness. And here's the thing. Many of us steal time from sleep thinking we're buying productivity. But what we're actually doing is borrowing from tomorrow. We're draining the energy reserves that could have fueled our best thinking, our calmest conversations, our most inspired moments. So let me ask you this. What would change in your life if you started treating sleep as seriously as your career goals, your health plans, your daily responsibilities? What if sleep became a ritual of self-respect, rather than a leftover? Because every night you honor rest, you are building a mind that is clearer, calmer, and more emotionally resilient. A mind that doesn't need 5 cups of coffee to survive the day. A mind that wakes up already whole. You can't outrun fatigue, but you can outsmart it. By making rest a boundary, a commitment, a sacred pause. Let sleep be your reset, your nightly act of self-care, your invisible strength. And once your nights begin restoring you, there's something else your mind needs. Something far rarer in this age of noise. 4. Sit with yourself in stillness. When was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? Not scrolling, not planning, not solving or fixing, just sitting, with nothing but your breath, your presence, and the quiet hum of your own awareness. For most of us, that kind of stillness feels almost unnatural, even threatening. We're so used to being stimulated by noise, by tasks, by screens, that silence starts to feel like a void. But in truth, that stillness isn't empty. It's where your real healing begins. Because dopamine doesn't just respond to stimulation, it also responds to presence. And presence comes from stillness. We live in a world of relentless input. Notifications, music, conversations, to-do lists. Everything around us keeps our minds engaged, but also fragmented. And the more we fill our time, the less space we leave to listen inward. Disconnected from silence, we become disconnected from ourselves. But the Stoics understood the necessity of withdrawing, not to escape life, but to return to it with greater clarity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That wasn't poetic metaphor. That was an invitation, a reminder to retreat inward, to face yourself without distraction. And modern science agrees. Practices like meditation, mindful breathing, or simply sitting in silence have been shown to increase dopamine and serotonin production. They strengthen emotional regulation. They rewire the mind toward clarity and calm. But more than that, stillness gives you back your agency. When you sit, really sit, with your emotions, you stop running, you stop reacting, you start observing. That pause creates a space between the impulse and the response. And in that space is power. It's the power to choose differently, to respond with intention, not habit. Imagine you're overwhelmed. Instead of reaching for your phone or numbing out with food or chatter, you sit, you close your eyes, you ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? You don't judge it, you don't analyze it, you just witness. And something shifts. The storm settles. Your brain begins activating reward pathways, not because you've distracted yourself, but because you've dared to be present. This is why people who regularly practice stillness often report feeling more grounded, more focused, more emotionally balanced. They're not detached from the world. They're just anchored within it. And stillness doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be an hour-long meditation on a mountaintop. It can be a walk without headphones. A few minutes of deep breathing before bed. A quiet morning with tea and no screens. What matters isn't the method, it's the moment. You're not performing, you're remembering who you are beneath the noise. What you feel beneath the numbness. What you know beneath the opinions of others. So ask yourself, what would happen if I gave myself just 5 minutes of undistracted silence every day? Would you find peace? Or pain you've been avoiding? Maybe. But either way, you'd find truth. And truth is where healing starts. You don't need to become a monk. You just need to be willing. Willing to pause, to sit, to listen. Because only in silence do we truly hear ourselves. And sometimes, that inner voice, once heard, is all you need to find your way forward. And when your mind is grounded in stillness, something remarkable begins to happen. You begin to want more for yourself, not from a place of pressure, but from clarity. You begin to set goals. And more importantly, you learn to celebrate every small win along the way. 5. Set goals and celebrate small wins. Let's get something straight. Motivation isn't born from luck or sudden bursts of inspiration. It's cultivated, brick by brick, through daily, intentional effort. That slow and steady rhythm? That's what builds real momentum. It's not about waiting for the perfect mood or magical energy. It's about showing up, again and again, for the life you're trying to create. Imagine this. You have a big, meaningful goal. Maybe it's reclaiming your health, writing a book that's been inside you for years, switching careers, or simply becoming more emotionally grounded. If you only allow yourself to feel proud when you've crossed the finish line, you're setting yourself up for burnout. Why? Because your brain will feel deprived the whole way there. The journey becomes a burden instead of a becoming. But what if you broke that goal into pieces so small they almost felt laughable? Drink 1 glass of water right after waking up. Write 100 words, not 1.000. Take 1 deep breath instead of reacting in anger. These micro goals aren't insignificant. They're powerful. Because when you take those steps, and more importantly, when you acknowledge them, dopamine flows. You begin to train your brain to associate effort with reward. And that shift? It's not just psychological fluff. Science backs it up. Studies have shown that recognizing and celebrating small wins rewires the brain. It reinforces neural pathways that make you more likely to stick with new habits. You begin to enjoy the process, not just crave the end result. It becomes sustainable, because it becomes meaningful. Think of a child learning to walk. Every wobbly step is celebrated. Every stumble is met with encouragement. No one tells the child, "Come back when you can run perfectly." So why do we talk to ourselves that way? Why do we dismiss progress just because it's not polished? You don't build greatness in a single leap. You build it one honest choice at a time. And each of those choices is a brick, laid down in the foundation of the person you're becoming. So make this a practice. Set goals that are real, grounded, and attainable. Then track your wins, not to impress anyone else, but to support your own psychology. Keep a note in your phone, a journal by your bed, or simply end the day with a quiet thought. I showed up. I moved forward. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's dopamine being built with intention, not manipulated with fake reward, but earned through truth. And emotionally, this practice is transformative. Every time you celebrate a small win, no matter how tiny, you send a message to your nervous system. I'm capable. You remind yourself that change is real. That effort isn't wasted. You turn despair into direction, doubt into progress. And over time, something beautiful happens. Your self-image begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone stuck in place. You start seeing someone in motion. Someone who honors small commitments. Someone who keeps promises, even if they're quiet, even if no one else sees them. Let me ask you this. What's one small action you could take today that nudges you closer to who you want to become? Just one. Do it, then celebrate it. Not with confetti, not with fanfare, just with presence, with awareness, with that subtle, but powerful voice inside that says, I did what I said I would do. Because the person who learns to rejoice in a single step, one real, unglamorous step, is the person who one day finds themselves at the top of the mountain. Not because they ran faster, but because they never stopped walking. And speaking of subtle forces that move us forward, let's talk about one of the most powerful emotional reset buttons we all have access to. Something that can change your entire state in just a few minutes. 6. Listen to music that moves you. Have you ever put on a song, and suddenly, everything shifted? Your mood lifted, your chest opened, your breath slowed, or your heart raced. Your entire emotional atmosphere transformed. That's not magic. That's dopamine. Music isn't just entertainment. It's movement. Real, physiological movement inside your brain and body. Neuroscience confirms that listening to music we love activates the brain's reward system, increasing dopamine and releasing feelings of joy, connection, and even mental clarity. It's why a song you haven't heard in a decade can transport you back to a specific moment, a place, a person. It's why certain chords make your chest ache, not from sadness, but from recognition. Because music speaks in ways words never could. It cuts through thought. It bypasses logic. It lands directly in the heart. And the best part? Music is immediate, intimate, accessible. You don't need a therapist, a journal, or a strategy. You just need sound that matters to you. The Stoics didn't talk much about music directly, but they understood rhythm. They understood harmony, both within the soul and with life itself. Seneca often wrote about the importance of emotional rhythm and balance. And truly, what is music if not rhythm-given form? When you feel low, foggy, unmotivated, anxious, music can be your bridge. A doorway out of the heaviness. A hand on your shoulder whispering, you're not alone. You can shift this moment. Because music doesn't demand. It doesn't pressure you to fix or explain anything. It simply offers a mirror, a release, a quiet reset. Let's get practical. Say you're stuck. You can't think clearly. You're tense, or emotionally flat. Before you reach for caffeine or start mindlessly scrolling, try this. Close your eyes. Put on a piece of music that truly resonates with your current state, not just background noise, but something that stirs you. Let it wash over you. Where does it land in your body? Do your shoulders relax? Does your breath deepen? Do your thoughts begin to shift? That's not escapism. That's recalibration. That's chemistry. That's presence. Different types of music serve different purposes. Uplifting music can energize. Calm, ambient music can soothe. Instrumental or classical tracks can enhance focus and open up creative flow. And sometimes, when you're holding something heavy, sad music is the medicine, not to deepen the sadness, but to give it room to breathe and leave. But the secret is intentionality. Don't consume music the way we consume noise. Don't let it be random. Choose it. Curate your emotional environment. Use music like a tool, like a companion in your healing. Your focus, your emotional reset. Create playlists for your moods, your mornings, your evenings, your turning points. Don't just follow what's trending. Choose what speaks to you, what moves you. Because motivation doesn't always come from logic. Sometimes, it comes from a single song, a lyric, a note, a shift in rhythm that reminds you who you are beneath the stress. That's the power of sound, not as distraction, but as alignment. And when you start to see music this way, you realize something else too. You don't always need to fix how you feel. Sometimes, you just need to feel it all the way through, and let it pass. Music gives you that space, that movement, that quiet freedom to feel without judgment. So ask yourself, what's the soundtrack to the version of me I'm becoming? What song lifts you? What melody centers you? What rhythm brings you back to life? Play it, feel it, let it do its quiet, invisible work. Because where words fail, music speaks. And once you've tuned your inner world through sound, there's one more thing that determines how you feel each day, more than you realize. It's not what you do. It's who you're with. 7. Surround yourself with nourishing relationships. There's no shortcut around this truth. Relationships shape your brain. Not metaphorically. Literally. The people you choose to let into your life influence everything from your motivation to your resilience. Your focus to your sense of self-worth. Every laugh, every glance, every conversation is an input, a signal that your body processes, and your dopamine system responds in kind. Because connection isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity for mental health. It's biology. But here's the catch. Not all connection is created equal. We've been conditioned to believe that quantity matters more than quality. That having hundreds of friends or daily texts somehow means we're connected. But your nervous system knows better. It can sense the difference between surface interaction and soul-level presence. What it craves, what your entire being craves, is authenticity. Presence that is real, grounded, and safe. It's the kind of presence where someone looks at you. Really looks, not waiting to speak. Not checking their phone, but listening. It's someone who sees beyond your current struggle. Who doesn't demand that you be more than you are, but reminds you of who you've always been. That kind of connection nourishes. It's invisible medicine for your brain and spirit. The Stoics knew this. They didn't build their lives on isolation. They valued companionship, but not the kind built on convenience or usefulness. Seneca once wrote, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." Not to be impressed, not to be entertained, to be understood. And that kind of understanding changes everything. It strengthens your inner world. It restores your energy. It offers perspective when the world feels heavy. Now, contrast that with relationships that deplete you. You know the ones. The conversations that leave you questioning yourself. The interactions where you feel small, anxious, or invisible. The people who speak over you, doubt you, drain you. In those relationships, your brain doesn't feel safe, it feels threatened. Your body moves into survival mode. Dopamine drops. Your nervous system contracts. Your mind scatters. Over time, even without realizing it, you start to shrink. You play smaller. You become guarded. You begin to live more on edge and less in peace. And that matters. Because your emotional baseline, how you feel day to day, isn't only shaped by what you think. It's shaped by who you let in. The good news? You don't need a huge social circle. You don't need dozens of best friends. What matters isn't quantity, it's quality. Just one or two people who energize you. People who make you laugh deeply. Who challenge you gently. Who make you feel safe to be fully yourself. That's worth more than 50 shallow connections combined. Because every conversation is data for your brain. Every person is an emotional environment. And over time, your nervous system adapts to whatever it's most exposed to. Your brain becomes what it lives around. So how do you protect this part of your mental health? Start by observing. After each interaction, whether it's a meeting, a text thread, or a hangout, pause. How do you feel? Uplifted or drained? Grounded or tense? Clear or confused? That's not just a mood. That's biology speaking. The more you honor those signals, the more you learn to curate a life that supports your emotional chemistry rather than sabotaging it. And just as importantly, be that nourishing presence for others. Be the person who listens without interrupting, who celebrates without comparing, who shows up without performance. Be the kind of energy you wish someone would bring into your life. Because connection is a mirror. And when you create space for someone else to feel seen and safe, you build a foundation for mutual healing, not obligation. Not drama, but elevation. A rising together. And here's something we don't talk about enough. If you're feeling numb, unmotivated, or emotionally heavy, don't just turn inward. Look around. Look at your environment. Who are you spending time with? Who has access to your thoughts, your energy, your time? And more importantly, do they deserve that access? This isn't about harsh judgment. It's about protecting your peace. About honoring your worth. Because your internal world, your emotions, your clarity, your drive, depends on the external energy you allow in. Your environment, both inside and out, is the architecture of your mental health. And sometimes, the biggest act of emotional self-care isn't meditation or journaling. It's simply choosing better company. So ask yourself, who lifts me without effort? Who makes me feel more like myself? Who am I becoming because of the people I surround myself with? Because a true friend doesn't exhaust you. They restore you. They don't fix you. They see you. And that kind of relationship? It isn't a bonus. It's a core ingredient for a healthy brain. It's not luxury. It's medicine. And speaking of medicine, some of the most powerful healing doesn't come from people or pills. It comes from something even older. Even simpler. 8. Let the sun touch your skin. When was the last time you stepped outside, not to rush somewhere? Not to run errands or check your phone, but simply to feel the sunlight on your face? We forget, in the concrete maze of modern life, that we are not machines. We're not made for endless artificial light and recycled air. We're biology. We're chemistry. We are, at our core, part of nature. And the sun? It's not just warmth. It's a biological trigger, one that impacts how you feel, think, and function every single day. Here's what the science says. Sunlight helps your body produce vitamin D, which regulates your immune system, your mood, and your sleep cycles. But just as important, perhaps even more so, natural light boosts dopamine production, especially in brain regions linked to focus and motivation. Exposure to morning light is particularly powerful. It tells your internal clock, "Wake up, it's time to engage." Your mind sharpens, your energy rises, your mood lifts. This isn't spiritual fluff, it's neuroscience. The light you receive through your eyes directly influences the chemistry of your brain. And even though the Stoics didn't have access to research journals or circadian studies, they knew the value of nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote under the stars. Seneca found peace in the mountains and rivers. They didn't retreat into nature for escape, they went to align themselves with it. Because to think clearly, they knew, you must return to what is real. But modern life has severed us from that rhythm. We sleep through sunrise. We live behind drawn curtains. We spend our brightest hours under artificial bulbs, staring at glowing rectangles. Then we wonder why we feel foggy, anxious, and chronically restless. It's not weakness, it's misalignment. Your nervous system is starving for the signal it was designed to respond to, the sun. When you deprive yourself of natural light, your dopamine suffers, your mood dips, your willpower weakens, and the spiral begins. But the solution isn't complex. It's beautifully human. Step outside, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Even if the sky is overcast. Let your eyes, without sunglasses, absorb the light. Let your skin feel the air. Let your lungs slow down. And leave your phone inside. Don't document it. Don't multitask. Just be. Walk. Stand. Breathe. Because in those few quiet minutes, your nervous system recalibrates. Your brain realigns. Your body remembers. This is what being alive feels like. This isn't about turning nature into a productivity hack. It's about remembering that you belong to the earth, not just to your inbox. So let the sun touch your skin, not as a habit, but as a ritual, a moment of reconnection. And when you do, you'll begin to notice that everything, the fog, the fatigue, the resistance, starts to shift. And now, from light and nature, we return inward again, because no matter what's happening outside, one of your most powerful tools for balance and motivation lives deep within your breath. 8. Let the world heal you, starting with light, presence, and stillness. Because the world, the real, physical world, has a rhythm, a frequency, a kind of quiet wisdom that recalibrates you when you're off-center. The early morning sun, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of birdsong, the firm silence of a tree just standing still, none of it asks for attention. But all of it has the power to reset your inner world. This is not a poetic luxury. It's a biological reality. When you step into nature regularly, not as a tourist, not as a task, but as a participant, your nervous system begins to soften. Your cortisol levels drop. Your anxiety decreases. Your mood becomes lighter. Your thoughts feel less cramped. Your breath slows down. And dopamine? It flows differently here. It's not the sharp spike of digital stimulation. It's a steady pulse, a natural rise born not from chasing, but from simply being. What if you made this a part of your life, not occasionally, but daily? What if you let the morning light kiss your skin before your phone ever touched your hand? What if the first thing you reached for wasn't a notification, but the sky? Ask yourself, when was the last time you stood outside, undistracted, just to feel the light? Just to let yourself belong to the earth again? Because there are some days where even the best books, podcasts, and intentions fall short. But the morning light? Sometimes. That heals what words never can. And from that grounded place, from that sunlight-fueled clarity, comes a deeper question. 9. Do what you love, not just what's expected. When did joy become something you had to earn? When did doing something just because it made you feel alive start to feel like a guilty pleasure instead of a natural part of being human? Somewhere along the road to responsibility and adulthood, many of us traded what lit us up for what made us useful. And in that exchange, something subtle but essential was lost: our natural connection to sustainable dopamine. You see, doing what you love, genuinely love, isn't frivolous. It's neurochemical. It's mental maintenance. It's an act of emotional alignment. Whether it's painting, gardening, cooking, building, journaling, running, playing music, designing, crafting, or even sitting in nature doing nothing, these are not hobbies. They are nourishment. Why? Because activities that fully engage your attention and awaken your spirit activate your brain's reward system. They generate natural, sustainable dopamine, the kind that lasts, the kind that supports emotional balance and mental clarity. Not the spike and crash kind. Not the empty stimulation, but the deep, fulfilling kind that only comes from doing something that matters to you. Not because it's productive, but because it's true. The Stoics understood this, too. While they emphasized discipline and virtue, they also spoke of eudaimonia, a term that means flourishing, thriving, a life lived in alignment with your nature. They didn't see joy as separate from meaning. They believed that to live wisely was to live with purpose and with pleasure, not shallow pleasure. But the deep joy that arises when you're doing something that reflects who you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So ask yourself, how often do your thoughts return to what brings you alive? Let's make this real. Think back to a time when you were doing something you genuinely loved. You lost track of time. Hours passed like minutes. Your mind wasn't scattered, it was clear. You weren't checking your phone. You were fully present. That's dopamine working with you, not against you. That's the kind of activity that creates focus without force, energy without exhaustion, and joy without guilt. But here's the catch. We abandon these activities. We tell ourselves we'll get back to them when we have time. We convince ourselves that joy is earned through exhaustion, that we have to check off every box before we're allowed to feel good. But here's the truth. If you don't make space for what fuels you, you will burn out doing what drains you. And burnout doesn't always look like collapse. Sometimes it looks like constant low-grade numbness, a quiet fatigue, a slow forgetting of who you are beneath the roles and responsibilities. There is no wisdom in self-abandonment, and there is no strength in living only for other people's expectations. So what can you do? Start small. 15 minutes. That's all. Set aside a sacred 15 minutes for something that makes you feel alive. Every day, if you can, and protect that time like it's oxygen, because in many ways, it is. Don't explain it. Don't try to monetize it. Don't demand it be perfect. Just enjoy. Create because you want to. Move because it feels good. Return to the version of yourself who didn't need a reason to be joyful. Who simply was. No, this doesn't mean quit your job or abandon your responsibilities. It means reclaim something that was never meant to be lost: your curiosity, your wonder, your creative fire. Because when you water that part of yourself, everything else improves. Your mood, your energy, your motivation, your resilience. Dopamine flows, not from pressure, but from presence, from doing what is deeply you. So ask yourself, what did I used to love that I've slowly forgotten? What's one small joy I can return to today? And more importantly, what would happen if I stopped waiting for permission and simply made time for it? Because happiness isn't a destination. It's a practice. And that practice begins the moment you choose joy, not as a reward, but as a way of being. And yet, even when you choose joy, even when you reconnect with passion and presence, there will still be stress. Life will still bring friction, challenges, weight, and that leads us into one final truth. 10. Release stress, don't just resist it. How much energy do you spend holding it all together? How often do you put on a brave face when your chest feels heavy? How many days do you push through? Smile on your lips, while your mind begs for pause? In this world, resilience is glorified, but it's often misunderstood. Real resilience isn't about clenching your jaw and pushing through until you break. It's about knowing when to let go, when to release, when to stop gripping so tightly and allow emotion to move through you. Chronic stress is one of the most invisible yet dangerous drains on your mental health. It doesn't just tire you, it rewires you. It fogs your thinking. It narrows your perspective. It numbs your motivation. And worst of all, it disrupts your brain's ability to produce dopamine. The longer you carry stress without release, the more your nervous system adapts to pressure. Rest begins to feel unsafe. Stillness becomes suspicious. You begin to associate effort with anxiety. And over time, this becomes your emotional baseline, tense, tired, reactive. But the Stoics taught something powerful here. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means creating space to feel, to process, and to release. Most of us don't do that. We either suppress stress, holding it in our jaw, shoulders, gut, or we escape it with distraction, screens, food, noise, anything to avoid the discomfort. But emotion is energy, and what isn't released stays. It builds, it simmers, and eventually, it erupts, or it erodes your clarity, your energy, your peace. Releasing stress isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the act that tells your nervous system, you're safe now. You can return to balance. So what does release look like? Sometimes it's physical, a long walk, intentional breath work, stretching, crying, cold showers, movement that loosens the grip your body holds. Other times, it's creative, writing in a journal, singing, drawing, speaking aloud what you've been carrying silently for days. And sometimes, release is as simple as being still and allowing yourself to not perform. To not be okay. To not rush to fix anything. You let it rise. You let it breathe. And slowly, you let it go. Because when stress flows out, dopamine flows back in. And in that space, you don't just feel better. You feel like yourself again. So ask yourself right now, what have I been carrying that I haven't released? What is one simple thing I can do today to loosen my grip? Even a little? Because letting go isn't giving up. It's giving yourself back. And now, as we prepare to close this journey, there's one final, quiet truth we must return to. It's not a tactic. It's not a habit. It's a way of being. And sometimes, release isn't something you do with your body, but with your heart. Sometimes, it's emotional. It looks like crying, without shame, without trying to look composed. It's journaling without editing, pouring your truth onto the page without needing to make it poetic. It's talking to someone who sees you, not to fix you. Not to give advice, but simply to witness you as you are. Sometimes, it's spiritual. It's a quiet prayer whispered in the dark. A moment of stillness before the chaos begins. It's sitting with gratitude, not for what's perfect, but for what's real. And the truth is, it's not the method that matters, it's the intention. Every time you allow yourself to feel instead of fight, to release instead of resist, you send your nervous system a powerful message. I am safe. I am allowed. I am more than this moment. Here's the beautiful paradox. The very moment you stop running from your stress, when you let it rise, peak, and fall like a wave, you return to yourself. Your thoughts become clearer. Your breath deepens. Your emotional bandwidth expands. Not because the world has changed, but because your body is no longer stuck in survival mode. And when that happens, dopamine returns, not in a flood of external stimulation, but as a quiet reward for being in alignment, for being present, for being honest, for letting go. So let release become your daily ritual. Even 5 minutes is enough. Put your hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply, long, full breaths. Name what you're holding: stress, guilt, tension, fear. And as you exhale, imagine letting go. Not all at once, but bit by bit. Let your body learn the safety of softening. Let your stress speak, then let it pass. Because when the body rests, the heart breathes. And when the heart breathes, the mind begins to speak with clarity again. So pause and ask yourself right now, where am I holding onto stress that no longer belongs to me? What would it feel like to stop resisting and simply release? Don't wait for a breakdown to finally give yourself permission. Choose the wisdom of release today. Because your peace is not a prize waiting at the end of your to-do list. It's part of the work itself. It's what makes the rest of the work possible. And the more you release, the more you rise. Let this land. Your brain is not broken. Your spirit is not lazy. You are not unmotivated. You are simply exhausted from chasing balance in a world that never taught you where to find it. But here's the deeper truth. Everything you need to reset, to focus, to feel alive again, it's already inside you. Dopamine, that small but powerful molecule we've explored through this entire journey, is not the goal. It's the signal. It's the whisper from your body saying, yes, this is the path. This is where we feel whole. And dopamine doesn't respond to perfection. It doesn't need extremes. It responds to something simpler, something within reach. Consistent movement, honest nourishment, stillness, sunlight, joy, connection, rest, and above all, intention. So no, you don't need to change your entire life overnight. What you need is to return to the small daily choices that send a powerful message to your brain. I am here. I am healing. I am choosing to feel again. The Stoics never chased happiness. They cultivated clarity. They didn't suppress their emotions. They trained their minds to hold emotion with grace. To respond, not react. To stand firm, not harden. And that same clarity, it's already available to you. right now, in your breath, in your body, in the next step you take after this episode ends. So don't wait to feel motivated. Build motivation like a fire, small sticks. Steady flame. Don't wait for peace to arrive. Create the conditions that allow peace to find you. Because you have more power than you've been taught. You have more agency than you've been told. And dopamine? It's not just chemistry. It's a compass. It tells you when you're aligned. And when you're drifting. So start small. Stay consistent. Let go of the pressure to be perfect. And instead, honor the basics, deeply. Daily. Because improving your mental and emotional well-being isn't about chasing something grand. It's about choosing small acts of self-respect, again and again. If this episode helped shift your perspective, even just a little, pass it on to someone who might need it. Subscribe if you'd like more reflections that reconnect you to what truly matters. And above all, keep showing up, because in the end, it's the smallest habits, done with love and consistency, that build the strongest lives.